Hi guys, I'm making this video to explain to you why we are hosting our well-being webinar on career well-being right after we discuss workplace well-being on January the 12th. The career well-being webinar is going to be hosted on January the 19th, and we have invited two interesting Hong Kong entrepreneurs to talk about their own journey and how we can all inspire by their own experience and building resilient micro mental habits. Now, some of the people have actually asked me why we have chosen this topic to talk about career well-being. And in fact, probably not everyone has talked about our career development in terms of the career well-being. It's more on, progression and, are we happy and things like that. But this is probably, the first time people talk about career well-being in this part of the world. I actually got inspired by this particular book. Now, the book's title, the 36 micro habits that will get us rich, might actually give you a wrong impression, because this book is originally written in Japanese, and it got translated into traditional Chinese by a Taiwanese interpreter. It's very interesting that, essentially the author of this book, is a guy who was coming from extreme poverty to now owning his own hair salon franchise in Japan. And in this book, the 36 micro habits, which, how I got the title for our upcoming career well-being webinar, building your own resilient micro mental habits, is essentially, talking about how we work, how we approach our career, and how we develop our own teams. So it's all interconnected. From our second webinar, talking about the workplace, how we are going to collaborate together with strength-based approach, back into the individual level. What can we do on an individual level to have this resilient and the right set of mental habits? In this book is very interesting. The guy who actually owns his own hair salon franchise right now in Japan talks about actually how he approaches his work from a productivity perspective, and also how he make his own 10 years plan of like each year how many hair salon owners that he has nurtured for his own franchise. So, in the book, because there are like 36 of them, he mentioned a lot about how he got back up and, from, unpleasant situation, and how he doesn't let himself, be immersed in unhappiness for more than three minutes. How he approached objections, which is actually very important nowadays, because, for a lot of corporations these days, we are going through a lot of transformation. And on our individual level, we are also going through our own career transformation in a much faster pace that we have never imagined, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Nowadays, it's very common to find, not just us entrepreneurs, but the corporate staff wearing like 3 to 4 hats. And, like, for example, if you're in digital marketing, probably you need to know a lot of new software and a lot of new technical computer skills versus like 10 years ago or 5, or even actually 5 years ago. So how do we actually deal with all these uncertainty and change? And, how can we actually like get back up and, recharge ourselves and not let ourselves drown, in kind of like those negative emotions when we have setbacks. And nowadays, in a lot of corporations, we're dealing with pivoting and trying out new ways of doing business all the time. We would actually encounter setbacks, which is like part of the process. I mean, not every day is a rosy day, and you can't expect to be 100% successful all the time. So, how can we on an individual level, also have these micro mental habits for us to build up our own resilience and eventually, build up our career success? Because like this book is very interesting. This guy, it's talking about how he, became an owner of 240 hair salon franchise from just like a high school technical graduate. He doesn't even like have a proper university degree. And he also talks about like how you should actually persist in that 1% that would actually lead you to success. And this whole book, I mean, I know that the title, like I said, if you can read Chinese, it means that 36 micro habits that would get you rich. I mean, probably would send you off the wrong vibes. But in this whole book, it's not about buying any investment products or whatever, but it's about like how do you actually treasure money. How do you actually like visualize the data for your 10 years plan? How do you actually delegate? How do you actually manage up 2 degrees? And like set the times at the deadline before you decide the quantity of your work and the quality of your work. And how you, especially on the number 12 habits, how you can actually stand losing, how you can face losing, how you can face failure. And also talk about the 4 principles of super efficient. There is a lot, like the 3 main secrets of getting up early. There's a lot of discussion these days, not just actually in Japan, but also like on our kind of like in the US or whatever. I'm sure you guys might have seen a lot of those news and whatever, on the habits and how to get up early, those kind of things. And this guy also talks about this as well. And I think, this is actually more persuasive because, this guy was really coming out of, extreme poverty. He was 23 years old. He was not eating for 3 days. And then his gas, his water, his electricity was being cut. And then he's now the owner of the Earth Holdings. And then he's actually building up his own team. So a lot of the things that we are discussing in this well-being webinar series, you can see the thread right now. It's, everything is actually interconnected. How you build up your own resilient micro mental habits for your career success is essentially also how you can lead a better team. Also how you can build up your own financial security, build up your own financial wealth, and your physical well-being also affect your mental habits. And essentially organizational well-being equals to a number of the individual well-being of all our staff, like what our first webinar speaker number 2 Joan of Fok Fu has shared. So this is all interconnected, and I'm just so grateful and so happy that Trim Protect is with me. They got the idea right away. Okay, let's go do it, and let's go invite the speakers and tell people how great our initiative is. And I just want to kind of like personally make a connection with you guys by making this video, by kind of sharing what books that I've been reading, what books have inspired me to do this webinar, so that actually where we're coming from. And then I just can't wait to see you all on January the 19th when we're talking about the career well-being.